Henry's Forest Flyer had become a big hit on the railway. The forest was attracting ramblers and other nature groups to the extent where a ranger service was protecting forest wildlife. At Henry's spot there was a small station where the rambling routes began and a small hotel provided overnight stays. Before this, Henry took a stopping passenger train alongside another one often pulled by James, though like all trains these were shared. Now Bear had to try and fill in, but his freight duties restricted the timetable, and as best the engines tried to share it, passengers weren't happy. The Fat Controller needed another engine, and the only place was the other railway. "I know just the one," said Richard Smythe when he asked him one day. "He is a Class 55, otherwise known as the Deltic. The Class 43 HSTs are taken over, and when they have enough of them, they will be withdrawn." "Then I will buy him straight away," replied the Fat Controller, and he went to make the arrangements. About 3 weeks later, the Deltic arrived. "You build passenger trains on the East Coast Main Line, correct?" asked the Fat Controller. "Indeed I did, sir. We aren't really mixed traffic like other diesels, as our power is focused on mainline passenger trains. I think we can handle freight, but our purpose presented us with a task they no longer needed us for. That and the fact there weren't as many of us as there were other classes," the Deltic answered as honestly as he could. "Thank you for your input. Right now I'm concerned about our stopping trains, so we'll worry about freight later. Now what about your name?" The Deltic thought. "Derrick comes to mind, sir. The nickname I have often reminds me of some gentlemen who share this syllable and rhyme I have to them." "Good. Derrick it shall be." The following day Derrick was checked over, given the all clear, and pulled his first train. He did so well. The passengers were amused to see an East Coast engine running up on the northwestern region. He got on with the other engines, all except Gordon. Gordon was cross at Derrick. "It's an engine like you that put my Doncaster brothers and cousins out of service. So many have been scrapped. What have you got to say for yourself?" The other engines were cross with Gordon, but Derrick stood up for himself. "Same happens to all of us. You put your predecessors to shame, we did it to you, and now these so-called high-speed trains are doing the same to us, all because they don't turn around and can go faster. We're built this way, and we do what they built us to do." "I still feel put out by you," said Gordon. "And Class 43s do the same to me," Derrick retorted. Silence fell. The next day Derrick left to take his train, and James spoke. "I wonder how he'll react to Ipanema." The others could only ask themselves the same question. Gordon suddenly remembered what he first thought of them, and realised that he may have judged Derrick too hard after all. At the station, Gordon was about to take the express when the station master came up. "We'll have to swap with Derrick today, Gordon. The water tower at Barrow and Finesse is out of order. They can't risk you blocking the line. We can't afford to wait if you delayed getting back." Gordon hesitated at first, but knowing it being the best solution for the passengers, he reluctantly agreed. Consequently, Henry had to switch with Bear, but he didn't mind as much. had a good run. It reminded him of his fast trains back on the East Coast. When he reached Barrow-in-Furness, however, there was something that darkened his mood. As he approached the station, the sight of Class 43's famous 125 intercity trains came into view. They were, of course, Pip and Emma, the Sodor Express sisters, and Derrick was not pleased to see them. "Hello there, stranger. I'm Emma, and she's my sister Pip. Who are you?" "I am lucky to be where I am, thanks to you lot," replied Derrick warmly. "I mean, if it wasn't bad enough that you replaced my brothers, you're doing the same on the West Coast as well. I bet you are all a cheap option, and they are signing you everywhere. All the same, no diversity, no friends or neighbours, just your brothers and sisters." Absolutely speechless and at a loss for words, they had to leave as he went into the sidings for his turnaround. When he came back to the station, he saw a Class 101 in the bay platform, looking at him sternly. "What are you looking at?" demanded Derrick. "You shouldn't be too hard on those two. They may have been favoured, but they won't be the mainstay of the main line forever. Many of us replace someone, but we all get replaced by something greater," said the stranger. Derrick was going to retort, but could see there was no reason to have a go at him. "I'm sorry, I just had a close call, and I had it rubbed in my face by Pacific last night." "You mean Gordon?" "I believe that was his name. His words hurt me, and then seeing those two just made the day seem so bad." "And you thought being rude to two sisters who may never have seen you or your brothers before would make things better?" Derrick could see his point. "What is your name?" he asked. "Well, we diesel multiple units don't tend to have names as such, but I kind of like Carl when engines ask me." "How come?" "Let's just say I'm a Carlisle train, and it was a good ring to it." "I can see you are Derrick. How did you get that name?" "I asked so Topham had to name me because of our nicknames, but I also wanted a unique spelling." Just then it was time for Derrick to leave, and as he did, Carl shouted out, "Be sure to talk to Bear and Edward. Both can give you some good advice. I've spoken to Bear on many occasions." Tooting back, Derrick set off with Bear bringing the voice flyer in on the other line. "What's been going on here?" he asked. Carl told him about Pip and Emma, and then he had to leave. Bear decided he had to have a word with Derrick. Derrick roamed the countryside and returned to Knapford, where he waited for his evening journey. Edward was there, waiting to take a special down to Vickerstown. Remembering what Carl had said, he decided to speak to Edward about his ordeal. After listening, Edward spoke. Every engine faces replacement and fear of scrap at some point. Many don't make it, but those who do should not hold things against their successors to an extreme, as every engine, no matter how good, won't be the best forever. What about Gordon? Asked Derrick. Gordon is a proud engine, but is also too ignorant to learn from his mistakes. So is James, but both are good-natured and can come to terms with changes over time. We have to go now, Edward, said his driver, pointing at the signal. Edward left Derrick deep in thought about recent events and his own actions. Later, Bear came into the terminus, having caught up with Edward himself on the way up. As he fueled up, he saw Derrick on a siding and saw his chance to talk to him. I hear you didn't make good impressions with Pip and Emma, he said. It is hard when they represent the very thing that replace you, replied Derrick. Maybe so, but let me tell you something I learned when I first came. Back then, I came with a boastful and careless diesel by the number D199, earning the name Spam Can. Derrick listened with interest and wonder. He told me we were to put every steam engine to shame so that the railway would be dieselised, but I was not that foolish. They had a point about when they were failed engines, they could still do their best, yet most of us diesels would moan for a fitter. He did not like the remark, but I shut him up because it served him right. He sounded like a real Axel Clank. Indeed, the following day proved their point too. He failed with a freight train and I was due with a limited. Henry had failed but was able to move him despite him not bothering to help. Then I failed and couldn't use my brakes. But with Henry's help we got to the junction where replacements took over. D199 was sent back and I went with Henry to the works. I never realised he failed until then when he told me, and that was when I knew that a real engine is one who does their best and not rely on their spoken reputation. I worked to be useful and D199 didn't. Even Pip and Emma proved useful. There'll be others who do and others who don't. Moral of my story is how you judge others is not by what they are, but who they are. So get to know them first, then decide. Bear finished. By this time, Derrick had to make his trip back to Barrow-in-Furness with the evening express. He was in thought again at his discussions, feeling there was a lot of wisdom he had learnt today. At Barrow, he was due to make his turnaround when the station master came up. Pip and Emma have failed 6 miles down the line, he said. We need an engine to get their passengers to the station and then into the sidings afterwards. Derrick's moment had come. Right, he said. Let's get the express into the siding and go get them. And with that, they got the express clear of the platform and off they went. Soon down the line, Derrick found the sisters. The signalman had switched the point so that Derrick could get to the train. Once coupled to Pip, off they went. "I'm sorry for the way I spoke to you both this morning," he said. Pip quickly spoke. "I'm assuming you're put out by us both," she replied. "I was," Derrick added, "but I've been told some things, and besides, I'm impressed how you have both managed to make it to a suitable spot for me to help you. Aye, we might be able to turn quickly, but we are a pain to rescue." It took 10 minutes, but they soon got to the station. Angry passengers got out and complained to the driver, guard and station master. Nobody could get a word in edgeways, so much so that Derrick tooted his horn at once. "Don't you realise if they had not stopped where they did, you would be later still? They did their best, in fact better than most engines I know," Derrick said sternly. The passengers silenced for a moment. Then one man came forward. "I admit they do their best, but I'm finding this happens too much. They've broken down 3 times this month. With maintenance both of them have had lately, I'm not surprised," shouted the driver. "It is such a rush job. Sir Topham Hatt wouldn't allow that if they were his engines," said the station master. "Quite right," said a voice. Everybody jumped, for there on the other platform was the fat controller who had caught Bear's train. "This matter will be resolved in due course, ladies and gentlemen. In the meantime, Derrick, I suggest you help Pip and Emma into Sodor and take your train. We don't want them to be any later," he said. "Right away, sir," and it did just that. The trip back was fast for Derrick, made up for lost time, and at the shed later the Fat Controller thanked him for helping and standing up with Pip and Emma, as well as getting the express back on time. As he left, Gordon spoke. "I'm sorry for what I said earlier. I shouldn't have prejudged you like that." "To be honest, Gordon, I think we both learned a lesson today," he replied, and winked at Bear as all the engines could sleep well knowing there was peace.